Hello, my name is Jocelyn Corporal, and for History 101, I chose to do my dig project on Masada. This is due March 1st of 2015. In 37 BC, King Herod ruled the Roman world. His palace was located in Jerusalem, in the center of Jewish tradition and culture. The Jews did not agree with Herod or his policies. Herod was concerned that the Jews would start a revolt against him at any time, so he constructed areas of potential refuge. The greatest of all of Herod's fortresses was Masada. The beauty and isolation of the mountain of Masada is only enhanced by the luxury of the fortresses. The fortress and mountain of Masada is not only known for its majesty, but rather the incredible story of valor that occurred there. On this slide here, you see pictured Herod the Great and the fortress of Masada from an aerial view. Notice the level of protection that Masada could offer from attacks. In the picture, you see the cliff that Masada is located on, which leads into its location. Masada is located in Israel and is bordered by the Dead Sea. From the image on the right, one can see the location of Masada in respect to the country of Israel. Masada is about 86 miles from Jerusalem, which would have been a very long travel distance if Herod needed to flee. The positioning of Masada is ideal for a fortress because it is almost impossible to get to. Masada sits on a rock cliff in the Judean desert and points out across the Dead Sea. From the Dead Sea to the fortress is a brutal 450-meter climb. As you can see, it is 2.5 miles from the Dead Sea. In the picture number 4, you can see the Dead Sea in the background from the mountain of Masada. The cliff, the rise, is about 1,432 feet high. Now, on the top of Masada, Herod had planned out 2 types of buildings, the fortification and the palaces. The palaces contributed to the lushness of Herod's living conditions. Everywhere he went, even if he was in danger, he would have a very nice place to go. In this map, north is oriented to the top. There is a wall all the way around the buildings at Masada. You can see that in the picture that the walls are thick and the walls are comprised of a bunch of rooms. There are 2 palaces at Masada, the North Palace and the West Palace. The North Palace kind of juts out, and you can see that in all the pictures, that it is on the very point of the mountain. The palaces contained living quarters, storage rooms, and places of residence for Herod's friends, family, and officials. There were also towers in the complex to watch the walls and the surrounding areas. Going on to what all was in Herod's palaces. One interesting archaeological finding at Masada is the storerooms. The storerooms were made to keep a considerable amount of provisions in case there was ever an emergency for Herod and his family. These storerooms were first excavated in the 1960s. They consisted of a central room that split into 2 rows of long halls. In the picture to the left of the slide at the bottom, the long halls were displayed branching out from a main corridor. So you can see the walls approaching you as you're looking at the picture. Remaining food was found that has been preserved for centuries. The archaeologists found walnuts, dates, pomegranates, seeds, and salt in storage jars. The rooms were designed to be kept cool with thick walls and many layers of plaster. Water came from rainwater-filled cisterns that could provide for 1,000 people for a year. In image number 8 near the top, you can see, just in comparison to the man in the red shirt, how large these cisterns were. And they would fill with rainwater. Another interesting thing that can be found at Masada is the bathhouses, which are located in the North Palace. The bathhouses were built for Herod and his entourage. As discussed in our History 101 class, bathhouses were an integral part of culture, especially for the Romans. Bathing was viewed as luxury only for the wealthy because bathing was for relaxing and socializing, not just cleaning. Additionally, water was not easily wasted in a desert area like Israel, so you are very privileged to be able to have extra water. Every floor in the bathhouses was covered in tile and the walls were frescoed. A beautiful display of the craftsmanship that Herod put into Masada is displayed in the mosaics on the bath floors. On the right, you can see several of the mosaics on the floor. In image 12, you can see 3 of the different bathhouses that he had and kind of how he did the walls and the floors. That would be a replication. To the left, you see the heated tub, which used pillars in the bottom to blow hot air from an outside furnace. This is very interesting because this is almost their version of high tech. These pillars are one of the most memorable factors of Herod's palace. The bathhouses at Masada give a glimpse of what life was like for the elite and what culture was like for the Romans. Now, the elaborate fortification of Masada, with all of its high-end features, were never needed to protect Herod from the Jews. Ironically, Herod died of health problems in 4 BC. The Roman and Jewish conflict did not end because of Herod's death, however. The Jews did not agree with Herod's predecessors either. A group called the Zealots rose up against the Romans in approximately 6 AD. When the Romans began to push back with the destruction of Jerusalem, the Jews retreated to the fortresses built by Herod. The last tower to stand was Masada. In the year 72 or 73 AD, that date is disputed, 967 Jewish rebels occupied Masada. So after the Jews took refuge in Masada, the Romans were nervous about taking over Masada as it was so carefully protected and so difficult to approach. One Roman general, however, did take the initiative to move against Masada. His name was Flavius Silva. The Romans sent 8,000 to 10,000 men to Masada. This was pretty much overestimating because, as you know, there was only roughly 1,000 Jewish rebels camped in Masada, but this shows just how protected the fortress was. Today, the Roman camps and ramp are still visible at the Masada site. First, the Romans placed camps at the base of Masada to restrict any traffic. They were hoping to starve the Jewish people hidden inside. There were 4 camps found that restricted any way for the Jews to escape. The red arrow on the picture to the right points to one of these camps. This is the camp on the western side of Masada. Archaeological discoveries showed that the Roman generals had their own camp that spared no expense. The camps included expensive dishes, painted wine bottles, and fine dining areas. The bottom picture shows a Roman legionary ring found at one of these camps. This reveals another aspect of Roman society. Military was included in the upper class. Most Roman rulers were generals from the military system. The Roman soldiers had modest and organized living quarters as determined by the clues left at the base of Masada. Depending on how long the fight was, we know that the Romans did spend a considerable amount of time camping out at these camps, waiting to see if the Jews would surrender, as they could not get any food. The estimated time is about 2 months that the siege of Masada took place. The largest factor, however, in the success of the Romans On the western side of the mountain, the Romans constructed a ramp using the natural incline of the land. They reinforced the structure with wooden and stone posts. They used this ramp to move a battering ram up the walls of Masada. This is how the Romans finally reached the top of the fort. The assault wall can still be seen today. Here is just a picture that explains a little bit more. To the right, you can see the assault ramp. Also, things that I talked about was the storerooms, which are on the north side where the North Palace is, and the three-tiered palace here. This side would be to the Dead Sea, and this would be the siege camp of Flavius Silva. The story of the siege is told by Josephus in his book, The Jewish War. According to Josephus, the Jews knew that they would be conquered when the Romans' battering ram reached the top of the mountain, and the Romans started fires around the fortification. Zealot leader Eleazar ben Yair and the leading men of the revolt decided that suicide was more honorable than being killed by the Romans. The story goes that the Zealots chose 11 men by lots to kill all of the men, women, and children at Masada. Those 10 men then drew lots to pick a final man. The final man slew the remaining 10 Jewish leaders. After this, he killed himself. Masada is referred to as a mass suicide, when in reality it was a mass murder, with only one man committing suicide. The strange part about the story is that the Jews decided to mass suicide or collective murder, even though it was against their religion. The Jews believed the act to be heroic. The decision at Masada showed the determination that the Zealots possessed to live a life of freedom in their own land. Archaeological expeditions have found many interesting pieces of evidence to support Masada. In the synagogue, 11 pottery shards were found that each bore a name. One of those names was Ben Yair. It is believed that these are the lots of the men who decided who would kill and who would be killed. In the synagogue at Masada, biblical scrolls were found that contained parts of the Pentateuch, Psalms, and Ezekiel. Only 28 skeletons were found in Masada of men, women, and children. Masada's mystery lies in the case of these missing bodies. It is possible that the Romans moved or burnt some of the bodies, but it is also possible that some of the Jews escaped. The mystery of the area and the will to uncover more only adds to the overall mystique of Masada. Today, the artifacts of Masada are well preserved because they were all built of stone, siege works included, and because Masada is so isolated from society. Masada is a national park and a museum today, reminding the people of Israel and people all over the world of our incredible history. Thank you for listening.